Welcome to In the Funnel. My name is Mark Cox. In the Funnel is a group of sales coaches and consultants that help B2B sales teams dramatically improve revenue. Clients come to us when revenue growth is stagnated, or their sales team is not meeting expectations, or they need to recalibrate their sales and go-to-market plan for the upcoming year. Our clients have enjoyed tremendous success working within the funnel, and please hear it straight from them by listening to the testimonial section of this website. What they'll tell you is there's two things that make us unique and different in our space. Number one, we have a process and a methodology. First, for understanding your current state, and then second, for building your sales and go-to-market plan for the upcoming year. The second thing that makes us unique and different is that everybody within the funnel has run a material sales organization in their recent past. We're all practitioners. We don't have any theorists or teachers, and what that means is we can get in front of your sales team and run the next sales meeting, or join them on their next sales call to close your next large prospect. All of us have a passion for professional, disciplined, process-driven sales, and we'd be delighted to talk to you if you're looking to grow revenue for your company. Please feel free to reach out to us through this website at info@inthefunnel.com or by telephone. Thanks for taking the time to watch this.
And I've been so excited to have this conversation, is where I think human resources can help the professional sales process. And let me do a scenario assumption. Let's assume somebody on David's team is meeting with a big client. You take an HR person with you. By the way, after the collective gasp of everybody listening, let me say what? So David's got a good salesperson, and the person is meeting with the client and saying, here's our product, here's our service, here's our price. And then the client looks at the person and says, who's that? And they say, hi, I'm from HR, I'm here to help. No, that's not what they say. They say the following, and play this scenario out. What a privilege to be with you today. You are lucky to have one of our best professional sales representatives who knows you and understands your goals. I come from the Human Resource Group. Let me tell you why I'm here. We have just got a product and a service and a sale with you. I'm going to go back into our organization and I'm going to look at our people. Do we have behind that product the right talent, the right people, the right skills, the right knowledge, so that we will give you a continued stream of products? And I'm going to look at our culture. Do we have a culture? You know, we value innovation. Well, you just told me what innovation means to you. Is our culture connected to your goals? And I'm going to look at our leadership. I am going to go back and make sure that we have the human capability so that this product sale is not an event. It's a long-term relationship. And right now, based on our research, we have about 40% of what you're buying in our market. Let me be clear, we want 80. We want to double our customer share with you. And here's how we're going to do it. You've got a great salesperson. I am going to complement her or his work with the right people, organization, and leadership that will give you confidence in our future relationship with you. And if you have ideas, let us know. I may bring you into our training program. I may bring you in to interview our next leaders. I may bring you in to help hire and train and develop and pay people. In fact, I'm going to include you as part of the sales compensation, because what you know and do as a customer is what we're about trying to serve. That's where HR is going to be a part of your world.
Team, in November of 2022, I had the pleasure of actually going to the World Economic Business Forum, or the World Business Forum in New York City. And it's one of those two-day conferences where some of the best speakers in the world get up and talk about their area of subject matter expertise. On day two of that event, I was completely blown away by David Ulrich. And David was speaking about HR. There's a lot of topics that I get super excited about when I'm looking at an agenda. And I'm going to be honest, before I heard David speak, HR was not one of them. But once I heard him speak, I had to do a deeper dive on his background because he was so compelling, and the actual presentation discussion was magnificent. So I had to find out who this fellow was. Here's what I found out. David is a university professor. He's an author, speaker, and management coach and management consultant. He's a professor of business at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. He's also the co-founder of the RBL Group. With his colleagues, David's written over 30 books that have shaped the HR profession, defined organizations as capabilities, and shown the impact of leadership on customers and investors. David served on the board of directors for Herman Miller for 17 years. He's a fellow in the National Academy of Human Resources. He also served on the board of trustees of Southern Virginia University for 9 years. David's been ranked the #1 management educator and guru by BusinessWeek. He was selected by Fast Company as one of the 10 most innovative and creative leaders, and he's one of the 21 people in the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame. He's also been named the most influential thinker in HR of the decade by HR Magazine. So when I now understood his credentials, it's no shock that he was he blew me away when he was speaking at the Business Forum. And so we chased him down to get him on the Selling Well podcast, and you'll be amazed at the value this conversation provides to us as CEOs of mid-sized companies or sales leaders. One of the things I think you're going to have to keep your eyes and ears open is how HR can actually help in the professional sales process in the next meeting with some of your most important clients. That's going to take place in the first 10 minutes of this podcast. Everything David shares is of value today. It was just a great conversation. And my teammate, David Fausner, and I really enjoyed speaking with David. We know you're going to like this podcast. And when you do, please like and subscribe to the Selling Well podcast, because that really matters to us. And thank you for doing so. Here's David Ulrich. Dave, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Mark and David, what a privilege to join such great colleagues in a great time of life and a great time of the year.
So Dave, we know you're in Utah today, but I've got to also say congratulations. You're still a professor at the University of Michigan, and boy, what a year your football team is having. Those Wolverines.
We assume we should be good. We pay them well. That's actually a joke. We live within the rules, but it's been a great year. Thank you. I'm amazed that you follow American football with all the hockey opportunities you have in Canada.
Well, we also love your hockey team, by the way,
Yep.
but I became really connected in with the team on Netflix these days. There's something called the All or Nothing documentary series on different sports franchises, and the one I've enjoyed most is the one on the Michigan Wolverines.
One of the cool findings we've had, and you understand sales, there is a strong correlation between football record in college and donations. And so it's not just a good football season, it's going to be a good year for all of us. So we're delighted about that.
I'm amazed, by the way, at the pressure that these young men take on their shoulders. Yeah. And when you get behind the scenes, the first All or Nothing of this series was actually the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that was the first one in the series. Then they went to other pro teams. But the one on the Michigan Wolverines, I was amazed at these young men, what they take on, because the pressure of winning every single game with such a short season and so few games, it's just overwhelming. And seeing Jim Harbaugh trying to work through and to manage and motivate and inspire these young men, truly amazing.
It's amazing. They're 18 to 23 years old. I mean, these are not older adults who've had a lot of life experience. They're young people, often from all kinds of backgrounds. And I remember talking with the athletic director of Michigan once, and he said, it's amazing to get the personal stories of these young men. Some are phenomenal, but some are really tragic. And football becomes their family, it becomes their agenda. Anyway, it's just fun to see sports as a case study of how people have opportunities to develop their gifts.
Well, what a great lead in, by the way, to our conversations today. So, folks, the reason we were so lucky to get Dave on the podcast today was I was at the World Business Forum around the Halloween timeframe, saw Dave on stage, with the likes of Carly Fiorina and Pat Lencioni and a group of, I want to say maybe 3,000 people in the room, 2,500 people, huge room. And Dave just jumped out as being so compelling to me because after the research, Dave, we know you're the father of modern HR, but in fairness, one of the first times I'd really heard such a senior level thought leader talk about HR in such a strategic way. And maybe I'd been caught in the 25-year-old paradigm of HR looked inside the business. But I was so compelled by your approach of talking about HR as this competitive strategic tool outside the business for clients, for employees, for investors, for their community. Tell us a little bit about where HR is today as a function and as a strategic tool for business.
Well, obviously, as with any function, not everybody is where I'm going to describe. It's the same in sales. There are salespeople who have been trained well. They're called the in the funnel folks, and there are others who aren't. But I was on a flight, and let me describe and pick up on your point a couple months ago. And one of my colleagues from the university was on there with his spouse, and he introduced me. Hi, this is Dave. He does HR, and I could hear the derision in his voice. I mean, it was, and I don't know how popular this show is. It dates me a little bit, but The Office or Dilbert cartoons.
Yes.
I mean, it was the stereotype, it's the administrative person, the policy police. And I just smiled and said, thank you very much. That's not the HR that we think about. When we think about HR, or the term I'm going to use, and there are a set of policies, by the way, if you don't do the administrative things well, hiring, paying, we're going to be in trouble. So you got to get that done. It's like the administrative work of sales. But when we think of HR, we think of human capability. And there's three things, and I'm going to say them in a way that I hope will be somewhat memorable. I did this in New York and elsewhere. When I think about human capability, I think about three things. My fingers represent talent. That's the people. Do we have the right people? Do we have the right individuals? Do we have the right skills? My fist represents the organization. Do we have the right team? That's Pat Lencioni. Do we have the right system? Do we have the right culture? The combination is leadership. And so an HR person goes into a business setting and asks three questions. Do we have the right people, the right organization, and the right leadership? And those three elements create human capability. Human is talent, capability is organization. And when they work well, investors prosper.
Yes.
We have found that 80% of the value of a company across the stock indices, both the US and Canadian, is determined by what's called intangibles. It's not how much cash you make, it's how much you have confidence in your future. And we have found that about 30% of that is human capability. Do I trust the leadership team? Do I trust what they're going to do? Will they make the adjustments to win? Do they have the right people, organization, and leadership? Boards of directors should be paying attention. Senior executives should be paying attention. That when I think of HR, I think of the people, the organization, and the leadership that allow us to succeed in the marketplace.
Well, first of all, how interesting. I've just come out of discussions with a couple of different, let's call it folks, where investors are asking those exact same three questions. The investors are looking to those three categories and doing very deep dives on those things before investing. And I do love this book, Reinventing the Organization, where you're starting to talk about just some of these amazing stories of how these organizations, some of the most successful companies in the world, have leveraged those three foundational things: people, people, leaders, and organization. And when we turn this around, and maybe I'll point it to David Fauser, but it feels like we have a bit of a challenge or a crisis today in professional sales, Dave. And Like you, I like to focus on the positive. There's many organizations doing amazing things, but Gardner and McKinsey continue to provide research that says clients or customers are seeing less value interacting with folks in professional sales. We're getting stats that say about 1 in 3, 1 in 4 professional salespeople churn jobs every year. And the tenure on a CRO is about 18 months right now, according to Gardner, the average tenure on the average CRO. So this is where, certainly from my perspective as the CRO, I would be looking to partner with my team in HR to figure out how do we understand that environment, but leverage our HR strategy as a way of competing and winning in the marketplace by starting with that talent, getting those talented people. David Fauzi, are you experiencing a little bit of the same in terms of some of those stats today, particularly the churn in professional sales?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can definitely attest to that, Mark. It's a lot different. This past couple of years have been the most challenging for me as a sales leader, with the turnover, as well as the recruitment and the engagement, the onboarding of new staff coming up through the system, doing that remotely, has been extremely challenging. And just the teamwork and the dynamics, and you talk about the culture and building that culture, because I always find that there's this organizational culture, but then there's also these really interesting, micro cultures that form in teams that become really even almost supercharged engaging, or super issues. So anyways, all that has been sort of shifted. So it's been very challenging. So I'm excited to hear what Dave's thoughts are on how we move forward, or where we're moving forward to in regards to sales or HR with people in general.
I think it leads to kind of an interesting question, Dave, and I know this is a bit generic and high level, but what do people want? What does our team want that we can actually attract or retain the best people in the market today?
I'm going to answer both comments with part A and part B. Part A is what you've just talked about, which is so critical. Do we have the right professional salespeople? How do we find them? How do we bring them in? How do we motivate them? How do we retain them? By the way, I'm going to make this so simple that it's going to be embarrassing. Talk to them. Talk to them. I mean, a colleague of mine, Beverly Kay, has created a career around a stay interview. You've got a really talented salesperson. Instead of waiting for some annual performance process, go up to them and say, you're really good. What's it going to take to keep you here? What do you need? What do you want? And then have an honest conversation. Sometimes their aspirations are just crazy. I mean, in the last 2 years with COVID, we've had some people moving. I want to live in Calgary and still work in Toronto, and I only want to work 2 hours a day. Well, that's not going to happen. So, but talk to them, have an honest conversation, and find out what matters to them, and then connect what they want and what they need, both their wants and their needs, to what needs to be done in the company. It's not a complicated value proposition. If you do A, B, and C, you will get the things you want out of your job. And that's part A. Again, why do people leave? There's a host of reasons, and it's very personalized today, and we can talk about that individual. That's part A. Part B for me, and I've been so excited to have this conversation, is where I think human resources can help the professional sales process. And let me do a scenario assumption. Let's assume somebody on David's team is meeting with a big client. You take an HR person with you. By the way, after the collective gasp of everybody listening, let me say what. So David's got a good salesperson, and the person is meeting with the client and saying, here's our product, here's our service, here's our price. And then the client looks at the person and says, who's that? And they say, hi, I'm from HR. I'm here to help. No, that's not what they say. They say the following, and play this scenario out. What a privilege to be with you today. You are lucky to have one of our best professional sales representatives who knows you and understands your goals. I come from the human resource group. Let me tell you why I'm here. We have just got a product and a service and a sale with you. I'm going to go back into our organization, and I'm going to look at our people. Do we have behind that product the right talent, the right people, the right skills, the right knowledge so that
Wow.
we will give you a continued stream of products. And I'm going to look at our culture. Do we have a culture? We value innovation. Well, you just told me what innovation means to you. Is our culture connected to your goals? And I'm going to look at our leadership. I am going to go back and make sure that we have the human capability so that this product sale is not an event. It's a long-term relationship. And right now, based on our research, we have about 40% of what you're buying in our market. Let me be clear, we want 80. We want to double our customer share with you. And here's how we're going to do it. You've got a great salesperson. I am going to complement his work with the right people, organization, and leadership that will give you confidence in our future relationship with you. And if you have ideas, let us know. I may bring you into our training program. I may bring you in to interview our next leaders. I may bring you in to help hire and train and develop and pay people. In fact, I'm going to include you as part of the sales compensation, because what you know and do as a customer is what we're about trying to serve. That's where HR is going to be a part of your world.
Yes, that sounds crazy. But I was picturing, because I deal with a lot of suppliers at our company, okay? Like these are people selling to us. And I was just picturing myself on receiving that from one of our suppliers. And I'm like, whoa, that's revolutionary, right? From a sales perspective, bringing somebody in does sound a little bit out there for me, but that's okay, because you can try things. But I'm thinking about it from a customer perspective, and that would give me a really big sense of comfort.
I'm sorry, Mark, we're going to ignore you for a minute. By the way, David, that's for me so exciting, because in the sales world, everybody's using the end of funnel tools. We've got them. So how do we differentiate? How do we go the next step? And for me, the issue is not a product sale. It's a relationship. And you know that. That's what selling well is all about. Well, how do you build a relationship? You have back there, if I'm your supplier, David, I'm going to say to you, we're going to hire people. We're going to train people. We're going to pay people, David, against what you need. We're going to build it, and we're going to build a culture. We have values, but our values are about you. If our values don't build value for you, they're silly. And you know what? We're going to let you participate in selecting and developing and working with our leadership team. And the goal of that is not trivial. The goal of that is we have 40% right now of this market space. Let's go to 60 this year, test us. Let's go to 80. We're going to work with you, David. And when we mess up, you tell us. We want a relationship.
Yeah, immediately what I'm thinking is I don't need to worry about this anymore.
That's nice. Oh, thank you.
So that's what would be the customer.
I love it. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that in my little ideas, because we want to take worry off your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to build that relationship. The thing I like about this is the salesperson, and you said it beautifully, David, was cynical. Why am I taking this? Remember the legacy HR view. Well, they get all the commission. By the way, nobody's seen Mark just walked off stage, because David and I are having a great conversation. So, David, that's what I want to do. I want to help you sell the relationship. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's called HR outside in. That HR human capability is not what we do in the company. We talked about that. Are we hiring the right salespeople? Are we training them? But are we using them in a way that creates value in the marketplace? Because if you don't succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. If you don't succeed with that customer, there is no job. And we want to make sure that everything we do with those salespeople connects with the customer we're trying to serve.
Fantastic.
I am just, I was running because, of course, my Siri turns on while you're speaking for some reason. We are always looking for spectacular ideas that we can apply today in our businesses, all of us out there. This is an idea I would say is a must for Q1, given the timing of our recording. It's just before the holiday season in 2022. Q1, everybody listening to this should be absolutely doing in their Q1 health checks with their clients. Imagine hearing that as a client. What that screams to me, Dave, is it's all about you, Mr. Client.
Nice.
Our business exists for you to help you achieve your desired outcomes, your business results. And so I'm bringing everyone on my team so we can hear straight from you what you need to be successful. I just love that idea. Talk about, you had some complimentary things, Dave, to say about Dan Pink before we started the podcast here today. The last thing he said to us on our podcast was he went into this soliloquy about his view on professional sales. And his last statement was, sales is management consulting. It's not peddling, it's not pitching, it's none of that. It's management consulting, which is all about the client. It's all about them. This is such a great strategy to show it's all about them.
Can I give another example?
Please,
And Dan Pink is
please.
just phenomenal. I have followed Dan's work for decades. It's always informative at a personal level. David, let's role play again. Q1, I'm the salesperson coming to you. I'm the supplier, you're the customer. And I say, David, I am so honored again to meet with you. We've just had an offsite with our management team in our company, and we've identified our values. We value innovation. We value collaboration. We value service. But David, what hits me is those values aren't valuable unless they're valuable to you. So David, innovation, collaboration, service, would those be things that are important to you so that you succeed in your world?
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure.
So, and I assume so.
Yes.
By the way, David, I've had this experience. I went to one company I worked with, David, and they said, our number one value is to be the most profitable in the marketplace. I bet, David, if I told you our number one value is to make as much money as we can, you'd go, no, I don't think that's my goal.
No.
Let's take those three: innovation, collaboration, service. Just off the top of your head, think for a minute. What do we as our company, our supplier to you, what do we need to do? Just let's pick one. Let's pick service. What do we need to do to demonstrate to you, as concrete as you can be, that we provide great service to you? Could you identify the action that we need to take?
100%. 100%. Like, just get back to us as soon as, like, within 24 hours. I want to see, I'd like to see some more interaction, some more proaction with our team. I could go on and on. I could just,
got it.
so
what we've just done is so cool. We may let Mark back into the discussion, because we said every company I know has a set of values. We put them on walls and coffee cups and mugs, and we sell them. That's not useful. But when those values create value for you, and now, David, what I'm going to do is put into our performance management system, get back to you within 24 hours, have at least 5 contacts a month with our key clients, make sure we listen to them and include them in every discussion. Suddenly, our values become valuable to you, and they're woven into our infrastructure. Again, I'm trying now, Mark, I'm going to welcome you back into our dialogue, and I'm sorry to do that.
Don't be at all. This is, I'm just mesmerized. It's fantastic.
But what I want to show is this is not complicated.
no.
This is not complicated. And I love Dan Pink's. It's a consulting, it's a relationship, whatever you want to say. It's also like a marriage. When I give my wife a gift, who defines the value of the gift? She does. I don't define it. When I first got married a long time ago, I got my wife tickets to sporting events, and her answer was, enjoy yourself. Now in the holiday season, I've got to really obsess. What can I do that will be meaningful to her? And if David's my client or customer, what's meaningful to him? And back to where we were earlier, ask. David, within 5 seconds, you gave me 2 or 3 get back to me within 24 hours, have multiple contacts a month with me. Listen and include my ideas as you're creating things. In 10 seconds, you had 5 behaviors that I need to go back and do. And when I do those, my final question again is, can we double our customer share with you? This is not a good Pollyanna social, let's go hug and play golf. This is, we want to get more of your business. And I love, David, what you said. I'm going to use it. Thank you. I will recognize you now and probably not pay you for all the insight, but I'm going to relieve you of worry. We're going to be there for you. You don't have to worry about it.
Well, if we had to pay people for IP that's valuable, Dave, I think both Dave Fowler and I would go broke from this conversation. This is so huge to me. And I'll just connect a few dots that are kind of interesting given what we're experiencing, what we're seeing with some of our client base today. We do have one client who's really so focused on their clients that they're instituting this process that says every employee in the company has to see X number of their clients in any given quarter. And keep in mind, this is a SaaS company that has application developers, that are much more comfortable sometimes in a dark room than they are at the party or in the event. But the idea is, if we want to truly, quote unquote, love our clients, we have to spend time with our clients. We have to show them we love them. And so that means we have to add value in those conversations, but this just aligns perfectly. This aligns absolutely perfectly.
What I hope this would do, Mark, is let's take one of those application engineers and we can create a Dilbert cartoon for them as well, like we had for HR. Let's give them something to say. What I just did with David would be a script. When they go see the client, what do they say? Let me show you my latest technique. No, that's about me. Here's what we value in our company. Do they work for you? And if we can give them a script that they can use, we learn. We did an exercise close to that a few years ago. It was a retail company. And we had every employee in the retail company in I think it was a month period, go interview 5 people.
Yeah.
And ask them, do you shop at our company? Yes, no. 2, has your experience been 1 to 10? And 3, what could we do to better serve you? The value of that exercise, and then they put the data back into a data set. Everybody said, look at the data, look at the data. The value of that exercise had nothing to do with the data. It had to do with 100,000 employees, and they didn't all do it, but a big percent of them going to their friends, their family, their children, their mothers, their aunts, their uncles, their neighbors, and they all had to do the 3 questions. Did you shop at our company? What was your experience? What could we do better? The data doesn't, the data is fine. You have a big data set, but the data doesn't matter as much as them getting focused in their head outside in. I love, Mark, what you're doing. That is such a great idea. And I hope you can give them a script. Right.
Well, what a great idea, Dave, about the script and just parroting what you just said. Many of these application developers would come to the table and their script would be something like this. I'm a year on board with my organization. I was in the top 5 percentile of application developers at the University of Kitchener-Waterloo. That's why I picked this organization. However, one of the things I'm learning is not only do I need to be a great application developer, but I need to understand the people who are actually using the fruits of my labor. Right. I need to be connected to what's important to you, because who cares what I build and how fast I build it and how well it works? If it's not of value to you, it's not of value to us. Right. So there's something like that where, and boy, they would love meeting their clients, but I love your idea of the tactical, give them a script. If they knew what to say, they'd be so much more comfortable walking into the meeting. And David, if you heard that as a client, David Fauser.
Could I add one thing? I hope they don't go alone. I hope they go with the sales representative. Okay. Yes. So it's in that silly role play, simple role play, wasn't silly with David. The sales representative is still the point of contact. We are not here to circumvent professional sales. We're here to supplement. Okay. Sorry. I just wanted to reinforce what you had. Yeah.
Yes,
sorry.
Please. And absolutely right. But can you imagine how much the David Fauser would open up once that meeting starts and that individual shares that, whether it's HR or application development. First of all, they're just overwhelmed. When was the last time one of the other organizations in the ecosystem did that? And it just screams, you're the most important person in this whole model. Yet we're doing this for you to help you drive better insights and outcomes. And to me, the takeaway is everybody in, let's call it a 200-person company, a SaaS company, which is a pretty good sized SaaS company. Yeah. The more they know about the clients they're servicing, everything works better. Everything. We understand our raison d'etre. This is what we need to, it's one thing for the salesperson to come back and try and translate and communicate what's important, all the other things. It's another thing for the leaders and the personnel to be right there in front of it. And I think they'd enjoy it. I really think they'd enjoy it more.
I think we missed a huge opportunity, Mark, with, I'm just thinking about personally with sales we've already made, where clients are happy. And then even like, I know we're talking about some really interesting ideas, just even our salespeople going back and asking those questions, marketing, asking those questions to understand what the real value is. Because sometimes, as I was hearing from Dave earlier, we come in with what we think is important as part of we're trying to sell to them. But I think just finding out what's really important to our clients really takes some of the pressure away and allows us to connect with them in a way that really helps them with what they're trying to accomplish and how our products fit. So I like that. The second thing I really like about what Dave was talking about, because as he was talking to me, I was thinking about salespeople complaining to me about internal departmental struggles, right? And I was thinking, well, what if the salesperson went to our billing or went to our engineering or other departments and asked those same questions just to see how they could create some more synergies internally, would be also a really interesting thing. But anyways, that's sort of a bit off to the side, Dave, but it is HR, it is people working together. And sometimes we have to think that way, right?
Well, one of the things I like about HR, and people have said, why do you do HR? You're into market success. HR builds the infrastructure that enables that. The example we just gave. If I'm in HR, I now go put into a process called performance review, which you got to have, 24-hour response time, 5 contacts a month. The standards that we use in the company should be connected outside. Another example, almost all larger companies, and the 200-person company may not do as much, have leadership training. Who decides what's taught? Well, it's often a competence model. Let's go interview 20 leaders who were good and 20 leaders who weren't very good and look at their behavioral differences. Part of me goes, yeah, that's looking back. Why not go to a customer, what I just did with David, and said service, innovation, collaboration. Whatever we promise you in our advertising, in our marketing, in our product literature, that should be the content of our leadership training. In fact, we've argued ad agencies that sell a big ad contract, let's say for $10 million, a big ad contract on all kinds of stuff, should add 5% for leadership training. Because everything we put into the advertisement should be the content of what our leadership training is. So if you're going to do a $10 million ad buy, say to the company, we'll give you $500,000, train your leaders from the top down. Here's a $500,000 virtual training, use in the funnel to do it. We're going to train our leaders to do what we promise our customers. Again, I just look, that's an IQ test of 0. And yet when we go into a large company, we say, show us the leadership training model, the competencies and the training, show us your promises to customers, and they don't overlap. And I think again, simple. This is why I love the HR today, which is success in the marketplace through the systems we create inside.
Well, when we were doing research for today's podcast, Dave, we came across, all of the accolades for you, and you're extremely humble at the beginning, talking about the World Business Forum, but you've written 30 books, written 200 articles. It actually made me tired just reading your Wikipedia page, let alone you actually living through and doing those things. But one of them said one of the key attributes you brought to the table was you take the complex and make it simple. For 25 years now, I've actually called out that the smartest people in the world do that. I'm not one of them, but I've noticed the smartest people in the world take the incredibly complex and simplify it so the rest of us can digest it and act upon it. And that's a beautiful one. Training in the competencies that we think help us compete and win in the marketplace. This is really where HR is this strategic component of the organization. And I've got to say, I didn't know really, well, I did. I didn't know what to expect before you stepped on the stage in New York. I absolutely knew what to expect from this podcast, but frankly, any highly, highly intelligent, capable business person would be really excited about going into an HR leadership role based on the content of this podcast.
Yeah.
Because you really are that strategic partner at the executive team level, changing out, helping us outside the business, clients, investors, the community, and also if we're going to win in the marketplace, it's going to help internally because people want to be part of a winning company.
I so agree. And we've talked a lot about customers and the little case studies with David and I. The same is true with investors. In many of our and the investor could be a parent company if you're a small subsidiary of a parent. It could be a debt holder if you're a private company, or it could be equity if you're publicly traded, often a fund. Get in front of them the same stuff. Give them confidence in our future. And you said you had some cases where the investors, the debt or the equity, or the big area right now is private equity, where they begin to get confidence. What David talked about is, I don't have to worry about your organization, people, and talent. And if I get that right, that's the goose that feeds the golden egg. I mean, that's the sustainable success. Yes. We don't have ways to do it yet. We're learning. We're trying to get research. I appreciate your recognizing I love simplicity. My dissertation decades ago, before anybody was born, was called numerical taxonomy. Numerical taxonomy is the science of simplicity. And I love data. I love data. Let's look at big data sets. We just did a huge data set. We looked at every publicly traded company in the US, 7,000. We used artificial intelligence to scrape what did they report about human capability. And we correlated their disclosure with market success. And it was breathtaking. 25% of your profits come from human capability. 25% of your market value comes from human capability.
Wow.
45% of your employee productivity, 40% of your social citizenship scores. That's with data from 5,700 people and companies. But it's simple. The discussions we've had today, I didn't know where this was going to go. I was scared. Let me be honest. I get scared in New York. I was scared here. I'm going into a professional sales group with Mark, and I see all the things he's done and all the power. I'm not a salesperson. That's not my forte. But I love to help organizations succeed in their marketplace. That is my passion. And I think what we do, back to my friend on the airline who introduced me, oh, this is the HR person. Read a Dilbert cartoon. No, this is not a Dilbert cartoon. This is the way I think that organizations are going to create value in the marketplace over time.
Well, David, you are a salesperson. You said you just help organizations succeed in the marketplace. Every salesperson moving forward, that is the definition of professional sales, helping our clients succeed in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And they can sense that intent, your clients and prospects can sense that intent. And the second they start to think that my intent is to put money in my pocket first and then help them, I'm dead. So a friend of mine likes to say this. He says, one of the ways to show clients that you care about them is to actually care about them. If you can't do that in professional sales today, you're in the wrong job, because this is getting more and more challenging. I want to call one thing out to everybody a second time. All of this will be in the show notes, but a book I'm just loving right now is Reinventing the Organization by Dave Ulrich and Arthur Young, and how companies can deliver radically greater value in fast changing markets. It's a great read. It's a fun read, and it's based on facts and data, not opinion. So pick that one up. Great holiday reading if you have not picked that one up yet. We have to be so careful with Dave Ulrich's time. First of all, I just want to say, Dave Ulrich, thank you for joining the Selling Well podcast today. What a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. I love simple tests. I'm going to end with my simple test. People have said, Dave, you've done thousands of studies, you studied thousands of leaders. What's the simplest test of an effective leader? Do I leave the interaction with him or her feeling better or worse about myself? What a simple test. Do I leave and that's the same message we've been doing. Leadership is not about me. It's about how I feel based on what the leader did. Mark, David, I'm leaving this interaction feeling better about myself. Thank you. You have both demonstrated leadership to me, which is what leadership is all about. What a privilege to join you.
What a privilege to have you. David Fauser, final comments, sir, please and thank you.
Well, I feel really good. So you're quite a leader yourself, Dave, because that was a very nice compliment and a really very thoughtful and thank you so much. And I do feel better about HR now and how it fits with sales. So thank you so much today.
I'm so excited by it. Dave, we're going to have links to your website, links to your consulting company in the show notes. If somebody wanted to learn more about Dave Ulrich, whether I've got the next global keynote, huge keynote, whether I want to learn more about what you're writing and doing today, what's the best way to connect in with you?
You've been so kind to mention I've done 30 some books and articles. You know what I discovered 2 years ago? People don't read the books. They don't read the articles. What they do is they look at LinkedIn. I have decided I'm going on LinkedIn an hour or two a day. And people have said to me, what team do you have doing all those comments? It's all me, 100%. So if somebody connects on LinkedIn, I will probably comment. And I'm finding that is the global water cooler today. I don't care where the comment comes from. I'm working with somebody in Lebanon who's just really thoughtful. I never look up their title because I don't care what their title is. I look at their ideas. I'm finding LinkedIn, and it's not the only platform, but it's a place where you could find me and access.
I'll tell you what, I'm tracking you on LinkedIn, Dave, because I want to see you in front of a crowd speaking again, or I want to be in a classroom that you're teaching. If you do executive programs for somewhat older people like me, we've got to continue this conversation. What a learning opportunity. I'm just so grateful.
Well, only if we can learn the next step. I get worried that we do what we've done before and we repackage. That's why I love people that you've had on your show. They're not repackaging, they're reinventing. And I hope we'll take what we've done today and in 2 years, it's 50% new even, that we keep moving forward. So that's where we're at. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, David. And folks, thank you so much for joining today. As always with the Selling Well, the objective of this session was to provide you with some strategies, tools, best practices, new ideas that you can apply to you and your business and your industry today. If you liked today's podcast, please like and subscribe to the Selling Well podcast. That's really helpful for us. But if there's something we can do differently, we love constructive criticism. Let us know. My email is markcox@inthefunnel.com. I check that personally, markcox@inthefunnel.com. Send us your ideas and tell us the truth. We love constructive criticism and we'll reward you for it. Until then, we'll see you on the next Selling Well podcast. Thanks, everybody.